The alarm screamed through the halls of the Valerian Defense Station. Taemin ran down the shaking corridor as explosions rocked the metal walls around him. His blue skin was covered in sweat, and his forearms moved quickly as he tried to reach the communication room. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of his people dying. The Corvan ships had broken through their last line of defense 2 hours ago. Now they were killing everyone they could find. Taemin reached the communication room and locked the door behind him. The room was small and dark, filled with blinking lights and humming machines. He sat down at the main console and began typing with all 4 hands at once. "Please work," he whispered to himself. "Please let someone hear this." The quantum relay system was old but still working. It could send messages across the galaxy, but it took time, sometimes months. Taemin hoped someone would get his message before it was too late for everyone else. He started recording his message. His voice shook as he spoke. "This is Ambassador Taemin of the Valerian Republic. We are under attack by the Corvan Empire. They are killing everyone. Men, women, children, it does not matter to them. They want us all dead." An explosion shook the station again. Taemin could hear the Corvan soldiers getting closer. Their heavy boots made loud sounds on the metal floors. "We helped Earth when they needed it," Taemin continued. "We gave them technology. We shared our knowledge. We were friends. Now we need help. Please, if anyone can hear this, we are dying. Send help if you can." The door behind him started to glow red. The Corvans were cutting through it with their weapons. Taemin typed faster, sending his message to every human colony he knew about. "The Corvans have taken 47 star systems. They kill everyone who will not be their slaves. If they are not stopped, they will keep killing. Please help us. Please remember that we were friends." The door fell down with a crash. 3 Corvan soldiers walked in. They were tall and thin with gray skin and black eyes. Their faces showed no feeling at all. To them, Taemin was just another alien to kill. "Please," Taemin said one more time into his microphone. "Help us." The first Corvan soldier raised his weapon. 3 months later, the message reached Earth. Admiral Sujin was drinking her morning coffee when the communication officer ran into her office. She was a small woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She had been in the military for 20 years and had seen many wars. "Admiral, you need to see this," the young officer said. His name was Minho, and he looked scared. Sujin put down her coffee cup. "What is it?" "We got a message from the Valerian system. It came through the quantum relay network." Sujin frowned. The Valerians lived very far away. It took months for messages to reach Earth from there. "What do they want?" Minho played the recording. Sujin listened to Taemin's frightened voice asking for help. She heard the sounds of battle and death in the background. When the message ended, there was only silence. "When did this happen?" Sujin asked. "The message is 3 months old," Minho replied. "By now?" "By now they might all be dead," Sujin finished. She stood up and walked to her window. Outside, she could see the busy spaceport where Earth's ships came and went. The Valerians had helped build some of those ships. They had shared their technology freely when Earth was just learning to travel between stars. Sujin remembered meeting Taemin 5 years ago. He had been kind and gentle. He loved to talk about art and music. He did not seem like the kind of person who would lie or ask for help unless things were very bad. "Get me President Dongwu," she said. "Right now." An hour later, Sujin stood in the president's office. President Dongwu was a heavy man with gray hair who always looked worried about something. Today he looked more worried than usual. "How bad is it?" he asked after listening to the message. "Very bad," Sujin replied. "The Corvans are not just conquering worlds. They are killing entire populations. This is genocide. What can we do?" "Our fleet is small. We only have 12 ships that can travel between stars." 12 ships might be enough," Sujin said. "The Valerians helped us when we needed it. Now they need our help." President Dongwu walked to his desk and sat down. He looked very tired. "The generals say we should not get involved. They say it is too dangerous." "The generals are wrong," Sujin said firmly. "If we do nothing, the Corvans will keep killing. Eventually, they might come for us too. And if we send our ships, we might lose them all. Maybe. But some things are more important than ships." President Dongwu was quiet for a long time. Finally, he looked up at Sujin. "How long would it take to get there?" 3 months if we push the engines hard." "And what are the chances of success?" Sujin thought about this carefully. The Corvans were known to be strong. They had big ships and powerful weapons. but they had never fought humans before. "I do not know," she said honestly, "but I know we have to try." President Dongwu picked up his pen and signed a paper. "Take the fleet," he said. "All of it. Bring our friends home." 2 hours later, alarms were sounding at every human military base. Ships began preparing for the longest journey they had ever made. Soldiers said goodbye to their families, not knowing if they would ever see them again. In space, the Corvan Empire continued its work. They had finished with the Valerian system and were moving on to the next group of worlds. To them, it was just business. Kill the ones who would not work, keep the ones who would, take everything useful, destroy the rest. They had received Earth's response to the Valerian message. The Corvan commanders laughed when they heard it. "Humans," one of them said. "What can 12 primitive ships do against our great fleet?" They would find out soon enough, but first they had more killing to do. Captain Boram stood on the bridge of the Terra's Wrath and watched the stars change. The ship was moving faster than it had ever moved before. Behind her, 11 other human ships followed in formation. Boram was 35 years old and had been in space for half her life. She was tall and strong, with scars on her hands from working on ship engines when she was young. Her crew trusted her because she always brought them home alive. "How long until we reach Valerian space?" she asked. 73 days, replied her navigation officer Youngsik. He was a thin man with thick glasses who knew more about space travel than anyone else on the ship. Boram nodded. 73 days was a long time to think about what they might find when they got there. The Valerians might all be dead by now. The Corvans might be waiting for them with 100 ships. "Captain," said Jiwoo, the chief engineer. She was a small woman with oil-stained clothes and calloused hands. "I need to talk to you about the weapons." Boram followed Jiwoo down to the engine room. The room was hot and noisy, filled with machines that hummed and sparked. Jiwoo led her to a workbench covered with metal parts. "I have been thinking about the Corvan ships," Jiwoo said. "They use energy shields to protect themselves. Most alien weapons are energy-based, so the shields work well against them. But our weapons are different," Boram said, understanding. "Exactly. Our railguns fire solid metal bullets at very high speed. Our missiles carry explosive warheads. The Corvan shields might not stop them." Jiwoo picked up a large metal slug. "I have been working on new ammunition. These bullets are made from the hardest metal we have. They should punch right through any energy shield." Boram took the bullet and felt its weight. It was heavy and cold. "How many can you make?" "Enough to arm every ship in the fleet." "But Captain, there is something else." "What?" "I have been listening to the Corvan radio signals. They think we are weak. They think 12 ships cannot hurt them." Boram smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Let them think that. It will make things easier for us." In another part of the ship, Dr. Nari was working with Wu Jin to understand the Corvan language. Nari was a scientist who studied alien life. Wu Jin was an expert in alien languages. Together they were trying to learn how the Corvans thought. "Look at this," Nari said, pointing to a screen full of Corvan writing. "They always talk about efficiency and order. Everything must be done the same way, following the same rules." "That is their weakness," Wu Jin replied. "They cannot adapt quickly to new situations. If something unexpected happens, they do not know how to respond." "Humans are different," Nari said. "We change our plans when we need to. We improvise. We do whatever it takes to win." Wu Jin nodded. "The Corvans have never fought anyone like us. They will not be ready for what we can do." Meanwhile, on the heavy cruiser Steel Phoenix, Captain Kyung-ho was training his crew for combat. Kyung-ho was a big man with a loud voice and a quick temper. His crew loved him because he cared more about them than he did about following rules. "Remember," he told his gunners, "we only get one chance at surprise. Make the first shots count." His weapons officer, Yoonji, raised her hand. "Captain, what if we are outnumbered?" "Then we fight harder," Kyung-ho replied. "The Corvans think numbers are everything. They are wrong. One angry human is worth 10 of them." The crew laughed, but they knew he was serious. They had all heard the stories about human soldiers who kept fighting even when they were hurt or outnumbered. It was something that other species did not understand. On the cruiser Iron Resolve, Captain Hyewan was studying the Corvan fleet formations. Hyewan was quiet and careful, the opposite of Kyung-ho, but she was just as deadly. "They always keep the same distance between their ships," she told her tactical officer Sang-min. "They always move in straight lines. They never break formation. That makes them predictable," Sang-min said. "Yes, and predictable enemies are dead enemies." Hyewan looked at the star charts. The Valerian system was getting closer every day. Soon they would see what the Corvins had done to their friends. As the weeks passed, the human fleet prepared for war. Engineers worked on weapons and engines. Soldiers practiced combat drills. Medical teams prepared for casualties. But the most important preparation was mental. Every human on the fleet knew why they were making this journey. They had seen the recordings from Valerian worlds. They had heard the screams and the sounds of dying. The Corvins had made a terrible mistake. They thought all species were like them, cold, logical, only caring about efficiency and order. They did not understand that humans could be driven by emotion. They did not know that humans would cross the galaxy to help their friends. Most importantly, they did not know that humans could hate. On day 58 of the journey, long-range sensors picked up the first signals from Valerian space. The news was bad. 13 planets showed signs of massive destruction. Cities were gone. Orbital stations were silent, but the sensors also showed something else. Corvin ships, lots of them. The alien fleet was huge, at least 40 ships, some of them much larger than anything humans had ever built. Admiral Sujin called a meeting of all the ship captains. They gathered in the conference room of the Terra's Wrath using video links. "You have all seen the sensor data," she said. "The Corvins have more ships than we expected. Some of you might be thinking this is hopeless." She paused and looked at each captain's face on the screen. "You would be wrong. Numbers do not win wars. Will does, courage does. The willingness to do whatever it takes, that wins wars." Captain Boram spoke first. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Simple, we go in fast and hard. We hit them before they know we are there. We make them afraid." "And if they are not afraid?" asked Captain Kyung-ho. Admiral Sujin's eyes grew cold. "Then we make them dead." The meeting ended and the captains returned to their ships. Throughout the fleet, the final preparations began. Weapons were loaded. Armor was checked. Prayers were said. In 15 days, they would reach Valerian space. In 15 days, the Corvin Empire would learn what happened when they made humans angry. The Corvins were still intercepting human communications. They still thought 12 primitive ships could not threaten their great fleet. They were making plans to capture a few humans for study and destroy the rest. They had no idea what was coming for them. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valerian system. What they saw made even the strongest soldiers feel sick. Captain Boram stared at the main screen on her bridge. Where there should have been busy trade routes and peaceful colonies, she saw only death. Pieces of destroyed ships floated in space like metal snow. The remains of orbital stations drifted slowly, cold and dark. "My God," whispered Young-sik, the navigation officer. "They killed everyone." "Not everyone," said Commander Jae-sung, looking at his scanner. "I am picking up life signs. Escape pods, lots of them. Most are not moving anymore, but some still have power." Jae-sung was the fleet's rescue specialist. He was a calm man who never gave up hope, even in the worst situations. If anyone could save the survivors, it was him. "Take your team and start rescue operations," Boram ordered. "But stay hidden. We do not want the Corvins to know we are here yet." "Understood, Captain." While Jae-sung's ships began the careful work of rescuing survivors, the main fleet moved deeper into the system. They used every stealth technology they had to avoid detection. What they found was worse than they had imagined. The planet Valeria Prime had been beautiful once. Taman had shown Boram pictures of it years ago. Blue oceans, green forests, cities that looked like works of art. Now it was brown and gray. The oceans were gone. The forests were burned. The cities were ruins, but the Corvins were not finished. Huge ships hung in orbit above the planet, still firing down at anything that moved. They were making sure that nothing survived. "Captain," said her communications officer, Minho, "I am intercepting Corvin transmissions. They are not just destroying things. They are processing the population." Boram's face went white. "Show me." The main screen changed to show images from the planet's surface. Boram wished she had not asked to see them. The Corvins had built huge facilities where they brought captured Valerians. What happened in those facilities was too terrible to describe. "They are not just killing them quickly," Minho said, his voice shaking. They are taking their time." Boram turned away from the screen. She had seen war before. She had seen death. But this was different. This was evil. "Get me Admiral Sujin," she said. A few minutes later, Admiral Sujin's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired and angry. "I have seen the reports," the Admiral said before Boram could speak. "All of them. What are your orders?" "We are not here to rescue anymore. We are here to deliver justice. No Corvin ship leaves this system alive. Do you understand?" "Yes, Admiral." "Good. Begin Phase 1. Boram turned to her crew. They were all looking at her, waiting for orders. She could see the anger in their eyes. Good. They would need that anger for what came next. "All ships," she announced over the fleet communication system. "This is Captain Boram. You have all seen what the Corvins have done here. They call themselves civilized. They call themselves advanced. They are neither. They are animals, and animals need to be put down." She paused, making sure every word was clear. "From this moment on, we show no mercy. We take no prisoners. Every Corvin in this system dies today." "That is not a request. That is an order." The response from the other ships was immediate. "Understood, Captain." "With pleasure, Captain. Let's make them pay." While the main fleet prepared for battle, Commander Jae Sung's rescue teams were bringing in survivors. Most of the escape pods contained only bodies, Valerians who had died from cold or lack of air. But some were still alive. The first survivor they brought aboard was barely conscious. It was a female Valerian named Mira. She was young, maybe 20 years old in human terms. Her blue skin was pale from cold and her forearms were wrapped around herself. Where am I?" she asked weakly. "You are safe," Jae Sung said gently. "We are humans. We came to help." Mira's eyes went wide. "Humans? But you are so far away. We got your message." "We came as fast as we could," Mira started to cry. "Too late. They killed everyone. My family, my friends, all dead." "Not all," Jae Sung said. "We have rescued 2,000 survivors so far, and we are going to make the Corvins pay for what they did." Over the next few hours, more survivors were brought in. Each one told the same story. The Corvins had arrived without warning. They had demanded complete surrender. When the Valerians tried to negotiate, the Corvins started killing civilians to show they were serious. One survivor was different from the others. His name was Kang Ho, and he had been a general in the Valerian Defense Forces. He was older than the others, with scars on his arms and a hard look in his eyes. "The Corvins are not just killers," he told Admiral Sujin. "They are smart killers. They have a rigid command structure. Every ship waits for orders from the flagship before doing anything." "Where is the flagship?" Sujin asked. "The biggest ship in the center of their formation. If you can destroy it, the other ships will be confused for several minutes. Maybe long enough for you to do real damage." "Thank you, General. That information will save human lives." Kang Ho looked at her with surprise. "You are really going to fight them? 12 ships against 40? Yes, that is suicide." Sujin smiled grimly. "Maybe, but the Corvins made one big mistake." "What mistake?" "They think we are like them. They think we care more about our own lives than about doing what is right. They are wrong." As the rescue operations continued, the human fleet took position. They divided into 3 groups. Boram's group would attack the flagship directly. Kyung-ho's group would hit the Corvin left flank. Hyewan's group would go after the ships that were still bombing the planet. "All ships," Admiral Sujin announced. "In 10 minutes we begin our attack. Remember what you have seen here. Remember why we came. Make them pay." The 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. On every human ship, crews made final preparations. Weapons were charged. Shields were raised. Prayers were whispered. Then Admiral Sujin spoke the words that would start the battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Sujin." The Corvins wanted to know what Earth would send to help our friends. Today they get their answer. Today they learn that when you hurt our friends, you make enemies of humanity. Today they learn what happens when humans go to war. She paused for 1 second. "All ships attack. Show them no mercy." The human fleet shot forward like arrows from a bow. 12 ships against 40. 12 ships carrying the anger of an entire species. 12 ships that had crossed the galaxy to deliver justice. The Corvin fleet was scattered around the system, confident in their superiority. They had sensors, of course, but they were not paying close attention. Why would they? No one had ever dared to attack them before. The first they knew of the human attack was when railgun shells started punching through their shields like they were made of paper. The Corvins had never seen weapons like this. Energy weapons they could stop, plasma beams they could deflect, but solid metal bullets moving at incredible speed. Their shields were useless. The Terra's Wrath fired first, sending a full spread of railgun rounds into the Corvin flagship. The alien ship's shields flashed and died. The bullets tore through the hull like it was made of cardboard. "Direct hit," shouted the weapons officer. "Their shields are down." "Keep firing," Boram ordered. "Do not give them time to recover." All around the system, the pattern repeated. Human ships appeared out of nowhere and opened fire. Corvin vessels that had seemed invincible a few minutes before were suddenly dying. The Corvin system commander, Velkoth, watched in horror as his fleet began to fall apart. These humans were supposed to be primitive. Their ships were supposed to be weak, but they were cutting through his forces like a hot knife through butter. "All ships," he broadcast frantically, "form up on me. Concentrate fire on the human flagship." But it was too late. The humans were not fighting like civilized beings. They were fighting like wild animals, attacking from all directions at once, and somehow, impossibly, they were winning. System Commander Velkoth had conquered 23 star systems for the Corvin Empire. He had destroyed entire civilizations without losing a single ship. He was considered one of the greatest military minds of his generation. Now he was watching his fleet fall apart in front of his eyes. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded from his flagship's bridge. 13 confirmed destroyed, sir," his tactical officer replied. 7 more are badly damaged. 13 ships in 18 minutes. Velkoth had never seen anything like it. The human weapons were primitive but devastatingly effective. Their tactics made no sense. They attacked from all directions at once, ignoring proper formation and order. "Sir," another officer called out, "the humans are broadcasting a message. Put it on the main screen." The image that appeared was Captain Boram standing on her bridge. Her uniform was torn and there was blood on her face, but her eyes burned with cold fury. "Corvin fleet," she said in broken Corvin language. "You called Earth for rescue. What arrived was the fleet of annihilation. You have committed crimes against innocent people. Now you pay the price." The transmission ended and the human attacks resumed with even greater intensity. Velkoth tried to rally his forces. "All ships form defensive formation around the flagship. Focus fire on their lead vessels." But the humans refused to fight the way they were supposed to. Instead of staying in neat formations, they scattered like insects. Instead of protecting their flagship, they sent it straight at the Corvin center. Captain Kyung-ho's Steel Phoenix led the charge against the Corvin left wing. His ship was smaller than the alien vessels, but it was faster and much more aggressive. "Target the big one," he ordered his weapons officer, Yoon-ji, "the one that looks like it is in command. Sir, their return fire is very heavy. Our shields will not last long. Then we better kill them fast. All weapons continuous fire." The Steel Phoenix dove toward the Corvin command cruiser like a bird of prey. Railgun rounds hammered the alien ship's shields while human missiles exploded against its hull. The Corvin ship tried to turn away, but Kyung-ho was faster. "Ramming speed," he shouted. "Sir?" Yoon-ji looked at him in shock. "You heard me. Full power to engines. We are going to show these aliens how humans fight." The Steel Phoenix accelerated toward the Corvin cruiser. At the last second, Kyung-ho pulled up, letting his ship's armored belly scrape along the alien vessel's upper hull. The impact tore huge holes in both ships, but the human vessel was built tougher. It survived. The Corvin ship did not. On the other side of the battlefield, Captain Hai-wan was leading her group against the ships that were still bombing Valerian cities. Her iron resolve moved like a ghost between the larger alien vessels, striking without warning. "There," she said, pointing at a massive Corvin bombardment ship. "That one is killing civilians right now. Destroy it." Her tactical officer, Sang-min, targeted the alien ship's weapon systems, firing missiles. The human missiles were different from anything the Corvins had seen before. Instead of carrying explosive warheads, some carried computer viruses designed by Dr. Nari. When they hit the Corvin ship, they did not just damage the hull, they infected the ship's computer systems. The Corvin bombardment ship suddenly stopped firing at the planet. Its weapons turned and began shooting at other Corvin ships instead. "What is happening?" Velkoth demanded as he watched his own ships attacking each other. "Unknown, sir. Some kind of computer infection. It is spreading through our communication network." Velkoth realized the humans were not just better fighters than he had expected. They were smarter too. They fought with their brains as well as their weapons. But the most shocking moment came when Lieutenant Sung-hwan's frigate Defiance Edge made its attack run. Sung-hwan was young, barely 25, but he had grown up hearing stories about human heroes who never gave up. His small ship was badly damaged, its weapons almost empty. A huge Corvan cruiser was bearing down on him, ready to finish him off. Any sane person would have retreated. Sung Hwan was not feeling sane. All power to forward shields, he ordered his crew. We are going to ram them. Sir, that will kill us all, his engineer protested. Maybe, but it will definitely kill them. And right now that is what matters. The Defiance Edge turned straight toward the Corvan cruiser. The alien ship fired everything it had, but the small human vessel kept coming. Its shields failed. Its hull began to crack, but it did not stop. The impact was tremendous. The Corvan cruiser was 3 times larger than the human frigate, but mass times velocity equals force. The Defiance Edge punched through the alien ship's hull like a bullet through paper. Both ships should have been destroyed. The Corvan cruiser it broke apart and exploded in a ball of fire. But somehow, impossibly, the human frigate survived. Its hull was cracked and twisted. Half its crew was dead, but it was still fighting. Impossible, Velkoth whispered, as he watched the damaged human ship continue to fire at his vessels. No ship can survive that kind of impact. But he was thinking like a Corvan. Corvan ships were built for efficiency and elegance. Human ships were built by people who expected to get shot at. They were ugly and crude, but they were incredibly tough. More importantly, they were crewed by humans who simply refused to give up. The battle raged for 3 hours. The human fleet took heavy damage. 2 frigates were destroyed completely, and every ship was hurt. But the Corvan losses were much worse. 26 ships had been destroyed, and most of the survivors were badly damaged. Finally, Velkoth tried to end the slaughter. Human fleet, he broadcast on all frequencies, we are willing to negotiate. We will withdraw from this system and release all prisoners in exchange for safe passage. The response came from Admiral Sujin herself. Her ship was burning and half her crew was dead, but her voice was cold and steady. The time for negotiation ended when you began murdering civilians, she said. There will be no safe passage. There will be no mercy. Today you face justice. Velkoth felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These humans were not fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting because they believed what the Corvans had done was wrong. They would rather die than let a single Corvan ship escape. All ships, he ordered desperately, retreat to the edge of the system. We will call for reinforcements. But the humans had anticipated this. Captain Boram's group was already moving to block the escape routes. Captain Haiwan's ships were hunting down the survivors, and new human vessels were arriving. The rescue ships that had been saving Valerian survivors were now joining the battle. Sir, Velkoth's tactical officer reported, we are surrounded. There is no way out. Velkoth looked at the tactical display. His mighty fleet, which had seemed invincible just a few hours ago, was trapped. The humans had only 12 combat ships, but they fought like demons. They took damage that should have destroyed them and kept fighting. They made attacks that should have been suicide and somehow survived. Worst of all, they were winning. Prepare for final battle, Velkoth ordered. All remaining ships close on the human flagship. If we are going to die, we will take as many of them with us as possible. The surviving Corvan ships, 15 in total, formed up around Velkoth's flagship and began their final charge toward the Terra's wrath. It should have been an easy victory, 15 ships against 1, but they had forgotten something important. The Terra's wrath was not alone. It was surrounded by friends who would die before they let it fall. Admiral Sujin watched the Corvan ships approaching and smiled grimly. All ships, she broadcast to her fleet. They want to finish this the hard way. Let's show them how humans die. The final phase of the battle was about to begin. The final battle began at dawn over Valeria Prime. The planet's surface was still burning from Corvan bombardment, painting the space above it in red and orange light. Admiral Sujin stood on the bridge of her flagship Terra's Wrath. The ship was badly damaged. Half her weapons were gone, her shields were failing, and fires burned in 3 different sections. But she was not ready to give up. How many Corvan ships are left? She asked. 15, Admiral, replied her tactical officer, all moving toward us in attack formation. And how many of our ships can still fight? 7, Admiral. The others are too damaged. 7 against 15. In any normal battle, those would be terrible odds. But this was not a normal battle. The humans were not fighting for conquest or glory. They were fighting because innocent people had been murdered, and someone had to pay the price. All ships, Sujin announced over the fleet communication system, This is our last chance to make them pay for what they did here. Every shot counts. Every sacrifice matters. Make them remember why they should never have made humanity angry. Captain Boram's voice came back strong and clear. Ready? Admiral. Captain Kyung-ho, his ship burning but still fighting. Standing by. Captain Haiwan. Calm as always. We are with you. The voices of the other captains followed, each one determined to see this through to the end. On the Corvin flagship, System Commander Velkoth prepared for what he hoped would be the final assault. His once mighty fleet was in ruins, but 15 ships should still be enough to destroy 7 damaged human vessels. All ships, attack formation, he ordered. Focus all fire on the human flagship. Kill their admiral and the rest will surrender. But Velkoth still did not understand humans. They did not surrender when their leaders died. If anything, it made them fight harder. The two fleets rushed toward each other across the burning sky. The Corvin ships fired first, sending streams of energy weapons toward the human formation. But the humans did not try to dodge or take cover. Instead, they accelerated straight into the enemy fire. Chief Engineer Jiwoo had spent the last hour making final modifications to the human weapons. She had removed all the safety systems from the railguns, allowing them to fire much faster, but at the cost of burning out after a few minutes of use. We only get one chance, she told Captain Boram. After this, the weapons will be destroyed. Then we better make it count, Boram replied. The Terra's Wrath fired everything it had. Railgun shells, missiles, and even the mining charges that Jiwoo had turned into improvised torpedoes. The Corvin flagship's shields flashed and died under the massive bombardment. But the human ship was taking terrible damage in return. Corvin energy beams tore through its hull, killing crew members and destroying vital systems. Admiral, shouted the damage control officer. We are losing life support on decks 3 through 7. Seal those sections, Sujin ordered calmly. Keep fighting. Captain Kyung-ho's Steel Phoenix was in even worse shape. The ship's hull was cracked in multiple places and one of its engines was completely gone. But Kyung-ho refused to retreat. Target that cruiser, he told his weapons officer Yunji. The one that is firing at Iron Resolve. Sir, we do not have enough power for the railguns. Then ram them. Sir, our hull will not survive another impact. Kyung-ho looked around his damaged bridge at his injured crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. He could see the fear in their eyes, but he could also see their determination. Maybe our hull will not survive, he said, but their hull definitely will not. Set collision course. The Steel Phoenix turned toward the Corvin cruiser and began to accelerate. The alien ship's captain saw what was happening and tried to turn away, but it was too late. The human ship struck it amidships, and both vessels exploded in a brilliant ball of fire. Captain Haiwan watched her friend die and felt cold anger fill her heart. The Iron Resolve had been damaged earlier in the battle, but she still had one working weapon system. Target the Corvin flagship, she ordered her tactical officer Sang-min. All remaining missiles. Captain, that will leave us defenseless. Then we better not miss. 6 missiles shot out from the Iron Resolve, racing toward Velkoth's flagship. The Corvin point defense system shot down 4 of them, but 2 got through. They struck the alien ship's engine section, and secondary explosions tore through its hull. The Corvin flagship began to list to one side, its engines failing, but it was still fighting, still firing at the human ships. On the bridge, Velkoth held onto his command chair as his ship shook from another human attack. Half his bridge crew was dead and the other half was badly injured. Status report, he demanded. Engines at 30%, his engineering officer replied weakly. Weapons at 50%. Hull integrity critical. Velkoth looked at the tactical display. His 15 ships had been reduced to 8, and most of those were barely functioning. The humans had lost 3 more ships, but the survivors were still fighting with the same desperate fury they had shown from the beginning. Sir, his communications officer said, the human admiral is broadcasting a message. Put it on screen. Admiral Sujin's image appeared, transmitted from the burning bridge of her flagship. She was covered in blood and debris, but her eyes were still hard and determined. Corvin fleet, she said in their language. You came here to commit genocide. You thought no one would stop you. You were wrong. Today you learn that when you hurt innocent people, you make enemies of all humanity. Today you learn that humans do not forgive. We do not forget, and we do not surrender. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was as cold as space itself. This is your final warning. Surrender now or we will destroy every last one of your ships. Velkoth found himself actually considering it. The humans had fought with a ferocity he had never seen before. They had turned what should have been an easy victory into a devastating defeat. Maybe surrender was the smart choice, but he was a Corvan commander. Surrender was not permitted. The Empire would rather see him dead than defeated. All ships, he ordered, final attack. Show these primitives the true power of the Corvan Empire. The 8 surviving Corvan ships moved forward in one last desperate charge. Their weapons fired constantly, filling space with energy beams and plasma bolts. The 4 remaining human ships met them head-on. Dr. Nari, working from the damaged science station on the Terra's Wrath, activated her final surprise. The computer virus she had been spreading through the Corvan network finally reached its full potential. Suddenly, the alien ship's own weapons turned against them. What is happening? Velkoth shouted as his ship's guns began firing at his own fleet. The humans, his tactical officer gasped. They infected our entire computer network. We are shooting at ourselves. In the chaos that followed, the remaining human ships pressed their attack. Lieutenant Sung Hwan, his frigate Defiance Edge barely holding together after its ramming attack, fired his last missiles at a Corvan destroyer. The alien ship exploded spectacularly. Captain Haiwan's iron resolve, now completely out of missiles, turned its mining lasers on another Corvan vessel. The industrial tools were not designed for combat, but they could still cut through alien hull plating. The battle was turning into a melee, with ships from both sides firing at point-blank range. But the humans had one final advantage. They were not afraid to die. Commander Jae-sung, who had spent most of the battle rescuing survivors, brought his ships into the fight. They were not combat vessels, but they carried something more valuable than weapons. They carried the Valerian refugees who had witnessed the Corvan atrocities. This is for every innocent life you took, Jae-sung broadcast as his ships opened fire with their light weapons. The moral weight of his words seemed to have a physical effect. The surviving Corvan ships began to falter, their crews losing the will to fight. Finally, only 2 ships remained. Admiral Sujin's battered flagship Terra's Wrath and System Commander Velkoth's dying flagship. Both ships were barely functional. Both commanders knew that the next exchange of fire would probably destroy them both. Admiral, Sujin's tactical officer reported, "We have 1 railgun left and maybe 6 shots." "That will be enough," Sujin replied. She looked at the image of the Corvan flagship on her screen. Somewhere inside that ship was the being who had ordered the genocide of an entire species, the being who had turned beautiful worlds into burning wastelands. "This is for Tai Min," she said quietly, remembering the desperate Valerian ambassador whose message had brought them here. "This is for all the innocent people you killed." She turned to her weapons officer. "Fire everything." The last railgun on the Terra's Wrath fired 6 times in rapid succession. The weapon exploded from the strain, but not before sending its projectiles racing toward the Corvan flagship. All 6 shots hit. Velkoth's flagship came apart like a broken toy. Secondary explosions tore through its hull as atmosphere rushed out into space. The proud system commander, who had conquered 23 star systems, died with his ship. The battle was over. The Corvan fleet had been completely destroyed. Admiral Sujin slumped in her command chair, suddenly feeling very tired. Around her, the bridge crew cheered weakly, but she could not bring herself to celebrate. Too many good people had died today. "Casualties?" she asked. "7 ships destroyed, Admiral."